Test, 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 test.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please take your seats, if our candidates would come to the stage, and if our on-deck candidates would come to the on-deck table.
Yeah, it is all the way over there and then to the right.
Yo, not doing that again. Oh.
Well, we might actually be ready to start a minute or two early, and since we have a very full evening, I think that will be a great thing to do. As last few people are taking their seats, a couple of announcements I want to make. One is that this forum is being live streamed tonight by Turk Pride, by Dave Moon and his students, so give a hand for them, please. And if you would like to see it afterwards, like maybe you missed something, somebody said, go to www.turkpride.tv. And they have cards back there in case you missed what I said, okay? All right, second thing is, we in the league find this a really wonderful and unusual forum because the library brings, Friends of the Library bring snacks and treats and help us support to have this. So thank you to them. Okay, I'm your moderator for the evening. I'm Jody Troutwine. I'm the voter service chair for the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County. And what we do as voter service is we do candidate forums and we register people to vote because League is a nonpartisan organization, meaning that we do not support any candidates. We invite everybody, we include everybody, and if there are issues we stand for, it's because we've studied them and gone through a lot. So we're a nonpartisan organization, and we love to do the candidate forums. First thing I want to do in the crowd, I know we have a couple of office holders and maybe some people who are candidates for something that's not at the forum. Would those people stand? And I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves. Okay, up here in front. Okay. All right. Okay, and I know, yeah, back here. Okay. Did I miss anybody? Oh, sorry. And you, with what? Gold Bar City Council. Okay, thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the people who take the time to run for office and those people who are willing to serve. It's so important or we wouldn't have our democracy. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to all your candidates that are here tonight. So our partners to do this are the Sky Valley Chamber of Commerce, Snow Owl Libraries, and us. And we want to thank you all, and of course Sultan High School for being here. Now, very important announcement, bathrooms are located down this hall. So if you have to get up and use the bathroom, you should just do that. Okay, I want to thank the candidates up front for being vigilant and being ready for their turn so we can get to as many questions as possible. Excuse me a second. When you came in, you were offered a couple of different things. You got these two little colored sheets of paper. Okay, the offices that are on the orange sheet are going to come up first in the forum, so if you have a question for somebody in one of those offices, you should do that first. And then you do the gold ones after that. And would you gentlemen who are collecting these, would you raise your hands a moment? Scott Gassler and Troy Myers, raise them. And if you have one at any time during the forum, raise it up and they will be able to see those colors and pick them up. I would say that once we get through the first three races, it won't do any good to turn the yellow sheets in. So if you want to do them now. Okay. You also received a booklet called They Represent You, about your elected officials. You received this, which is called Vote 411, which is a national website that you can go to find out more about your candidates. And a little bit later in the forum, when they leave the stage, our league people are going to accost them because we want them to put their information out on this website so all of you can see it. So they're going to give you a Vote for One bookmark and information of how to do that if you haven't already. Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask all of you to turn off your cell phones and any other devices. Since Sultan is taping this, we don't need to have our cell phones on. I have mine up here only because I'm watching the time, okay? And so we request that no audience member use a camera or a recorder during the forum program. We need to ensure that video and audio documentation is not used to create false or misleading information. Okay. Now, we want to talk about question and answer period. The first question that our candidates are going to get is designed to get at their qualifications, and the final questions are designed to give the opportunity for summary. I will pose the questions, and in between, I will ask as many audience questions as the time allows. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question, and I will pose them in the order starting on the far side each time so I can keep track of the people, okay? With each new question, I'll start with the next candidate. So for example, here, I will ask Adam first, and then the next question I'll ask Ty first, and back and forth. The candidates also may take one opportunity each to challenge the other candidate. A challenge can occur after the question has been answered, which for two people is not that difficult. It will be signaled by the challenger holding up the challenge card. Oh, you don't have challenge cards, do you? Okay, they should be in the box on the back table. If somebody would grab those and bring them up, that would be great. Meantime, I'll put that between you guys and you can fight. Okay. Okay, you only get one challenge card to use during the forum, and they're used to refute or clarify, not to gain more forum time at the end, okay? Our timekeepers for the evening are Bob Kramer and Tori Peters. They're sitting right up here in the front, and they will show a yellow card when you have 15 seconds left and red for time's up. And I forgot to say on the challenge, you have 45 seconds to pose the challenge and to answer the challenge. Okay. Now you can each have your own. The time limits will be kept strictly, and when you see the red sign and you're done, and you hear the bell, you are done, okay? Thank you. And we remind the audience members to turn off your devices and request that you hold your applause until the end of the program segments. So, like when the sheriff candidates are done, you can applaud when they leave the stage and the others are coming. And in any case, do not express support or opposition to any candidate at any time. Okay, the next set of candidates will be seating on deck. So we think are ready to go. So gentlemen, the first question is, what qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this office? And we're starting with Adam.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody being here tonight and for having this forum. Truly appreciate it. Born and raised in Snohomish County. I've raised kids in Snohomish County. I have kids that are raising kids in Snohomish County. I'm very vested here. I did an enlistment in the U.S. Navy right out of high school, and then I've been doing this job in public safety ever since. I've been a member of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office for 23 years. I've held various assignments, all of which have been in a patrol uniform and a marked patrol car, which basically I refer to that as I've been working the street the entire times. I did a stint in the Honor Guard, been on the SWAT team for 5 years, and I did a 10-year stint in the K-9 unit. All the rest was in patrol. A unique leadership position that I had gained for the last 12 years. I was elected to 5 terms as the Deputy Sheriff Association president. What that means is that the 270 members or so of the deputies and sergeants that work the road saw fit to elect me to 5 terms to represent them in the realm of labor at the Sheriff's Office. Again, thank you for having us, and that's just a brief background, and that's all the time we got. These are going to go really quick tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. I've been with the Sheriff's Office a lot like Adam for a very long time. I started my career in Eatonville, Washington, which is a very small agency. I came to Snohomish County in 1991. I have the unique opportunity of promoting through almost every rank in the Sheriff's Office. I spent my first 10 years as a patrol deputy and then became a sergeant. Later, I was promoted to lieutenant and had the opportunity to go to Stanwood and be their contract police chief, much like you all have in Sultan. In 2012, I was promoted to captain and oversaw part of our patrol division as well as our contract cities. And then in 2013, I was first appointed to be your sheriff when John Lovick stepped down to be the county executive. I was elected to my first term in 2014 and again re-elected by you all in 2015. I've had the opportunity to work in virtually all places of the organization. It's an honor to be in front of you tonight, and thank you very much.
Okay, question people, do you have any questions for me for the sheriff? Okay. All right, what is your assessment, Ty, you will start this time. What is your assessment of the Sheriff Office's current response to how it handled arrests and booking?
It's 60 seconds for that? Okay, so we've had tremendous amount of challenges like everyone in the country. In 2013, we had faced a tremendous amount of jail deaths related to the way we use the jail, and we were facing oversight by the federal government. We have completely revamped our jail. There's members of the county council here tonight. One of the very first things we did was actually put medical staff in our jail and changed how we book people. We average about 26,000 plus people a year that come through our jail at any one time. There's roughly 900 people in our facility. 80 to 90 people a day come through our doors. It is an absolute challenge. And I know that there have been concerns about how the jail is used. Frankly, we've made a lot of adjustments to how we use the jail. And we've come through a lot of effort. 2 weeks ago, the Snohomish County Jail was named one of 4 jails throughout the state of Washington that are accredited, both as a law enforcement agency and the jail.
Adam?
So the issues of the jail that definitely are challenging, but so is police work in the year 2019. There's lots of challenges. One of the whole things that I'm sitting up here today with my boss sitting next to me, which can be very uncomfortable, is for the last 6 years, we've had great difficulty booking misdemeanor suspects in the Snohomish County Jail. That is one of the main things that I want to change. So what does that mean to the community? What does that mean to the cops on the street? To the community, it means if someone breaks in your car and steals your stuff, there's a high likelihood they're not going to jail, and I'm not okay with that. What does that mean to the cops? That means that cops make good arrests all the time, all week long, do paperwork, book evidence, spend hours on cases, drive them to the jail, and they're turned away. Sheriff's Office policy is we drive them back to where we got them. I am not okay with that, and I will change it. I'd like you to consider, just put yourself in the mind of a deputy sheriff or police officer in Snohomish County, and once you've gone through that 2 or 3 times, okay, what are you going to do on the 4th and 5th and 6th time? You are not going to waste the time, you're not going to waste the resources. I want to change the mindset of how we are policing in Snohomish County right now, and I think that starts with taking the handcuffs off of the police officers and putting them back on the criminals where they belong.
Thank you. Okay, your challenge?
So I think words matter, and when we use words like high chance of turn away or high chance that people aren't going to get booked, that's frankly just not true. We use, as I mentioned, we have 26,000 plus people a year. We watch these numbers very closely. Less than 1% of the time, we turn people away, turn officers away, when two things happen. Number one, when our medical unit is over full, we don't have enough medical staff, and the officer tells us the individual does not present a threat to community safety. And so I think it's important to fully understand exactly what that means. We're not turning people away randomly. We're not trying to make communities unsafe. We're trying to be wise with your money and how we use your resources.
Thank you. Okay, now this time, Adam will be starting again, even though he finished the last, I'm sorry, he gets to respond to the challenge.
Oh, I say don't get mixed up by the numbers. People can make numbers say pretty much anything they want. Okay, I'm telling you from the mindset of police officers on the street. There is the reason the vast majority of individuals and through their labor unions have endorsed me that currently work for my opponent sitting next to me. They're endorsing me because they know something's wrong. You can drive around Snohomish County. You do not need to be a public safety expert to drive around our county and think something's just not right with what we're doing. And I think the jail restrictions, it's not everything, but it is absolutely a big part of it. So while the numbers are important, and I think during a Herald interview, he said he'd be okay with 2 refusals per week. The average is 11 per week since November of 2017. It's been high as 28 per week, and the numbers are everywhere in between. So I don't get confused by the numbers. I am not downplaying the issue. We have had big issues booking suspects
Thank you,
into the
Adam.
jail.
Thank you. And you get to start again. Catch your breath. Okay, the next question is, how well is the county's multi-agency coordinating group working to address the opioid crisis?
Okay, 2 things on this. This is really important, and I might make news here tonight. There is no coordinating with other agencies when it comes to an enforcement component of the opioid epidemic. I think what's going to be talked about is the embedded social workers. And I'm running on a law enforcement platform, law and order platform, there's no doubt about it. I am not talking about dismantling that. I have never said that, not once. But what we need, what do you want the role of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office to be in 2019 with the opioid epidemic? What we do is we enforce the law. That's through our state constitution. That is what we are supposed to be doing first and foremost. So there has never once been a coordinated effort when it comes to enforcement. I want to be very clear about that, okay? And I'll give an example. I know we're in Sultan, but I work in South Everett. Let me give the example of Airport Road 99. It is a huge issue down there. One side is Snohomish County, one side is Everett Police Department. Not once have we gotten with the Everett Police Department and done a coordinated effort of enforcement of all the issues they're seeing down there. I want to change that.
Thank you. Okay, Todd?
So a lot to be said in 60 seconds, so I apologize. The multi-agency coordinated event is actually the use of our emergency management system. Dave Summers in the back of the room tipped up our emergency management system over 2 years ago and brought all of the agencies that you just heard aren't involved, to include the Everett Police Department. We meet every 2 weeks and look at all of the tasks and the issues before us. In fact, I know some of the electeds in the room have attended this meeting. The goal of that is to use our resources smarter and better to reduce crime and reduce the incidence of opioid crisis. We have learned a tremendous amount about the crisis, how it's being created, and how to stop it from getting worse. And that's through coordination with the health district, through our emergency room physicians, through the medical examiner, and everybody in between, to include our nonprofits. The embedded social worker piece is just a bit of that. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, we work very closely with all of our agencies throughout Snohomish County on this issue.
Okay. Now, for the final question, we have sent the candidates a couple of questions, and I'm going to let them either choose one or some combination of these 2 questions. What have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring attention to, and or what are 2 to 3 tasks that you would want to begin right away to work on if you were elected? And you would start, Ty.
We're a very fast-growing county. I think we're still in the top 5 growing counties nationally. Growth, transportation, the issues of service plague all of us. As taxpayers, we've all had enough, and so we have to do a better job of using the resources we've got. One of the very first things I intend to follow up on and finish is moving our South Precinct out of the city of Mill Creek out to Cathcart so that we can serve the Cathcart, Maltby, Sky Valley area a lot better than we do now, because that's the population we serve. I want to see us continue to develop partnerships. We created a property crimes unit in Marysville and brought agencies together to attack burglars and basically broke down geographical locations. We've had tremendous success. I want to continue to use that in South Snohomish County and other parts of the county like we do all out here. And the other thing that I want to focus on is recently put all of our CPL process online to keep people from having to drive to our courthouse. There are a lot of other services that we can automate and provide to you so that we don't have people having to drive to our location.
Adam?
Top three things I would do. One, we're going to restructure the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, and we're going to get back to basics. I've heard from a lot of community members over the last 7 months or so that I've been doing this. I think cops should be allowed to be cops, and we should be out there enforcing the law. That is our main focus, and that is, as I've already stated, that's granted in the state constitution, that the elected sheriff should be enforcing the law, and I will get back to that. I will eliminate the jail restrictions. I already touched on that. I don't think it's appropriate. I think when someone breaks in your car and steals your stuff, and we catch them, which is the rare exception, they should be held accountable every day of the week. We can refocus. If I get elected in November, I'm going to inherit the exact same county budget this gentleman next to me has, okay? But there's a lot we can do within that and where we have our resources. That will be one of my main focuses. And the focus will be getting out in the community and getting back to basics and enforcing the law.
Thank you. And I have a quick yes or no question to ask you two gentlemen, and that is, are you going to change the color back to the green, gold, and white we used to have? And that would start with Ty.
Go ahead, sir.
The green, gold, and white of what?
That's was submitted, that we used to have, it said.
Of the patrol car, I think is the only thing I can remember in 28 years. No, I really like our black and whites now.
How about you, Adam?
No, I will not change it back.
Okay, let's give these gentlemen a hand for getting so much in 60 seconds each time. And we're going to have the Gold Bar City Council gentleman come to read his statement. And we need the treasurer on deck. It looks like they might be doing that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Preer, and I'm running for position number 4 on the Gold Bar City Council. My work experience is 30 years as a marine engineer, retired as chief marine engineer for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. My focus will be to badger our legislature for a focus on Highway 2. We don't deserve to be held captive 3 days plus per week due to bumper-to-bumper traffic. Our community's economics are affected because no one wants to come here to participate in our communities or activities. It is not acceptable for it to take an hour and 20 minutes to travel 12 miles from Gold Bar to Freddy's. We are looking down the road to an influx of new neighbors, and we haven't got the infrastructure for the ones who live here now. We have to make our representatives work with the Department of Transportation to work for those who live up Highway 2 east of Monroe. We are shareholders up here. We have as much right to attention as any other communities. We also need to prepare for more schools, fire protection, EMS. Thank you for having us.
And thank you for coming. And his opponent was not able to attend tonight, so I'm reading a statement that he sent. It says, to the League of Women Voters, I am running for Gold Bar City Council Position 4 for a second term as I feel there is more to do. Previous councils, like the one my opponent has already served on for the city of Gold Bar, kicked the proverbial can down the road on infrastructure, water system improvements, and enacted measures that stifle economic growth for our small town. We both want to see our city change, but in different ways. I have voted for the badly needed water system improvements, economic growth and expansion with the use of ATVs to connect Ryder Hills, I may not be saying that right, increasing rates for builders to bring more revenue to the city, and the updating of city codes. I am fighting the Singletary timber sale as the majority of my town citizens don't want to see the clear cutting happen as it could impact our tourism dollars. My candidate and I both want to see the city change, but in different ways. I want to go forward and don't want to see the city stay a town with no revenue. I want to continue to work to see it progress and not go backwards. Thank you for your time. All right, and let's have our treasurer candidates come up. We got them with the right name tags. That's a good plan. Okay, Brian, I'm going to start with you. And the first question for both of you is the one we will hear it a lot tonight. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this office?
Well, first I'd like to thank the League and the Friends of the Library for putting on a great forum tonight. Thank you so much. I started my career as a city council member, a Mukilteo city council member. You can't hear me? Okay, do I get extra time for that faux pas? I started on the Mukilteo City Council, served 4 years. Was then elected as the youngest mayor in the history of Mukilteo for 8 years, where I oversaw 8 budgets and implemented them. Worked in the legislature for 7 years, 4 years as the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, overseeing bond sales related to natural resource projects. 11 and a half years on the city council as chair of the Finance Committee, overseeing and implementing a $1.1 billion budget with over $600 million in bond sales over the last 12 years. I've worked hard as a member of the Treasurer's Finance Committee for 5 years, where we oversaw our investment portfolio. And I've worked hard on the county finances, and this is a natural transition for me, so I would appreciate your vote.
Okay, Rob?
Good evening, I'm Rob Toyer, candidate for Snohomish County Treasurer. I'm currently serving my 8th year on the Marysville City Council. 7 of those years I've been on the Marysville Fire District Board of Directors. I'm currently serving as the chairman. I'm also a member of the Finance Committee. One of the things I'm most passionate about is finances. I'm a financial advisor by trade. About 10 years ago, I started my own wealth management and accounting practice, so I look at this role as a treasurer as a way for me to implement my private sector experience with my political experience as well. Something else about me is I served 6 years in the Marine Corps, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Glad to have been a part of it, but I'd never go back in the Marines again. So, also worked in my family's CPA business where I learned a lot about taxes and accounting. But like I said, I'd like to bring my private sector experience into the treasurer's office.
Okay, and now we're going to move on to the next question, and Rob, you'll start with it, even though you just finished, okay? What will be your primary focus for the office of treasurer?
Well, I think collectively the Sievers family has served in the treasurer's office for 85 years, and I've had the opportunity to sit down with Kirk for several hours and really pick his brain and ask him what he would change or what he would do differently. And I look at my priority in the beginning of the year as really just meeting with the management staff and learning the things that they need changed. With new management, there's always things that could be implemented, but I think the efficiencies of the office have already been weeded out. Mr. Sievers has done a phenomenal job as a treasurer. I look to him as my mentor, and when it comes to changing things, I don't see a lot of change. I see more of it as a transition of management. So additionally, I think the next question would be about investments. One of my top priorities as a financial advisor is to review the investment policy statement.
Brian?
Well, I've worked actually with the county treasurer for over 35 years, and in my different and various offices that I've held. One thing for sure is I'd like to implement a taxpayer bill of rights so that everybody is well educated and understands that when they pay their taxes, what their rights are, what services should be provided, how they can work with the assessor's office, what the Board of Equalization is, and how they can pursue either, decreasing their taxes, to be honest with you, especially if they felt they've been assessed improperly. So it's very important to understand that we have a very conservative portfolio with $900 to $1.1 billion invested. We invest on behalf of the fire districts, water districts, sewer districts, the Snohomish County, and several cities. And what we want to work towards is safety, liquidity, and return on investment. And we have a small investment pool where we are certified by the Washington State County of Treasurers.
Okay, and you again, Brian, for this question. How should budget shortfalls be resolved, such as the one currently occurring with construction on the county campus?
Maybe we should clarify that question. We just got our new construction numbers in from the county assessor, and new construction shows that we are actually receiving much higher dollars than we anticipated for 2019. So related to the courthouse, I'm not exactly sure, but that is new construction that's added into the whole formulary. So there is not a Sam, is there a budget shortfall I don't know about, but I am the chair of the finance committee, and I just unless you're talking about the actual construction costs, but that's managed by the executive side. We sell the bonds.
Okay. All right, your turn, Rob.
When it comes to the budget of the treasurer's office, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what the question was, but it's determined by the exec's office. So that being said, if there were shortfalls within that budget and the treasurer's budget was cut, I would do like any fiscally responsible individual would do, is review the priorities of the office, and unfortunately if there's cuts to be made, then we need to make cuts. One of the things I'm most proud of in the Marysville City Council, when I came into office 8 years ago, we had to make cuts, and it wasn't easy, but you have to do that as an elected official. So if the time comes where there are shortfalls that have to be met, I will do so, and I will make sure that my team is on board with those decisions as well.
Okay, now another question that's kind of related to what you said, but it takes a little bit of a different slant, and we'll start, oh wait, did you get to add, you were the last person.
I was the first one last. Or was I the last one first?
Did you get to answer that one, Brian?
I did.
Okay, so now Rob will get to go again. All right, so this is related to something Brian said, but it's slightly different. So outline your philosophy regarding how the office should invest the money it's responsible for.
There's a chief investment officer that does most of the investment-related work in the office, but as a licensed financial advisor to the Securities and Exchange Commission, I bring a unique asset in my ability to invest. So in my private sector, I work with retirement planning, mostly individual equities, but if you look at the investment policy statement, mostly it's mortgage-backed securities, U.S. Treasury, CDs, and bonds. There's an item in here that says, I think it's probably the catch-all, that any investment is authorized by law. So one of the standpoints I take is that if the S&P 500 is producing, say, a 10% rate of return, but our portfolio is so conservative, we're shooting for 1.5% to 2%, why shouldn't we have those opportunities for our investors to have a higher rate of return while keeping our risk tolerance low as well? So as a financial advisor, I bring that to the table.
Okay, and Brian?
Well, I'll just repeat: safety, liquidity, and return on investments. We do invest a large amount of funds, U.S. Treasury, certificates of deposits, and municipal bonds primarily. A short story, I had a friend who is the treasurer for Orange County, and her predecessor started a riskier investment pool and lost $4 billion. It was the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history, and she had to come in and clean up the mess. So return on investment and liquidity is absolutely important, because there are times that some of our small agencies just cannot make their payroll, and we need to liquidate and get that money to a Daikin district or a school district, so that they can do their business. So I hate to go all Republican on you. I know I've said that before, but I'm going to be a lot more conservative.
This is being recorded.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. You've all heard that, right? Okay, coming down to the end of this questioning period, and we again have the same final two questions. You two can each answer part of each or one or the other. So starting with Brian, the two questions are, what have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring attention to, and what are the 2 to 3 tasks that you would want to begin right away to work on if you were elected? So some combination of...
Well, I think right away, that, and I've been a mayor of a small city, one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Washington. I built a fire department, a police department from scratch. The first thing to do is to get in and make an assessment of the team and the organization. I would ask the county council to provide some small amount of money to do that assessment, and maybe do an executive audit of functions. I would work hard to meet with every employee, meet with the unions that are represented, primarily municipal workers, AFSCME, and try to create an atmosphere, professional atmosphere, esprit de corps. Past members of the management team on the treasurer's office actually worked on campaigns, and I would put down an immediate policy saying this is a highly professional organization, and you are no longer to work on campaigns related to county offices. So those are some of the things that I would do right away. I think, I guess what hasn't been asked.
Oh, all right. Yep.
That's all right. That's all right.
Rob's turn.
I just want to echo what Brian said. He makes a lot of good points. One thing I wouldn't do is spend money on auditing the staff, though. We've done that in the city of Marysville. We spend a lot of money on it, and usually it doesn't work out well. So one thing I do plan on doing is working with the management teams. There's 4 management officers or staff in the office. Really working with them to ask them what their thoughts are and what changes can be made within the department. Like I said, with Kirk retiring, he brings a lot of information and a wealth of knowledge to the table, but I think a lot of those efficiencies have been worked out, but there's always room for improvement and change. So I will work with the management team, and I don't plan on making any significant changes right away.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We give them a hand.
Okay.
And we want the auditor candidates to come up and the judges to be on deck. And Steve Troutwine, I need to ask you something.
This is the first test to see if we can pour water without spilling.
Technology. Okay. Well, the first question for you folks, just like for everybody else, is what qualifications and experiences make you a strong candidate? And we're going to start with Cindy.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll move that closer. Wonderful. Thank you again for being here tonight. Qualifications are, I have a bachelor's degree in human services, a master's in adult education, and a Juris Doctorate from Seattle University Law School. I have 25 years experience in the 4 different divisions of the auditor's office, which, if you're not sure which 4 of those are, it's licensing, recording, elections, and animal control services. So my first career was in law enforcement, working with licensing, records, and animal services, and my second career has been 14 years in elections, 12 of which were at the county. And then 2 years ago, I advanced to the Secretary of State's office, where I currently work in their election division. I train auditors and election administrators in election law compliance.
Garth?
All right. Again, my name is Garth Fell, and for the last 20 years, I've been administering elections in Washington State. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Washington, and I'm also a nationally certified elections administrator. For the last 12 years, I've been your county elections manager, and for 7 of those 12 years, I was also your county recording manager. My teams have been recognized for their work on a national level with honors for mail ballot processing and also for voter outreach efforts. When I started in elections 20 years ago, I made a commitment to put fair elections first, and so for me that meant making sure that I was not aligned with any political parties. So I've committed to being a nonpartisan administrator, and I believe that's best for voters, it's best for candidates, and it's best for the process. I think there's good evidence for my background and the folks that are supporting my campaign, and I'd appreciate your consideration.
Okay, so now we start this question with Garth. What's your opinion of recent actions by the state and county to make registering to vote and voting easier?
Great question. So I'm fully supportive of the recent changes to make registering to vote and the voting process easier. And that would include things like same-day registration. I think we need to be very careful, however, to think that that's going to solve all of our voter turnout issues. We do have low voter turnout here in the state. It's also a national problem. And so in terms of how do we address that, it really goes deeper than looking at barriers and process. It really goes to how do we create a culture of voting and recognizing the importance of voting. So in our office, we've been working on creating partnerships with trusted community groups to get the word out that voting is important, and working through those relationships that they have built over the last year and a half. We've had 62 engagements with different groups just talking about voting and trying to get more people involved in promoting the importance of participating in our democracy.
Okay, Cindy.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's start with the state, because that's where I work. I think the state is doing a great job. In the last few years, they have started implementing more social media outlets. They're using Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're engaging different groups that they haven't previously. And I think that they recently secured funding, which they filtered down to the county level for media relations and that kind of thing, how the county sees fit for marketing. And I think the state has really taken a great approach in looking at creating future endeavors and community interactions. So they are developing that. I think at the county level, I definitely think we could do more. Like I said, I worked here for 12 years, and I saw a lot of programs that we had that were really good that just faltered. We used to work closely with high schools, we used to work closely with other groups, community colleges. We no longer do that. And I don't think making a change in the last year when we've had 10 years is beneficial.
Thank you. Okay, now a challenge. All right, 45 seconds.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify that certainly we've made some improvements over the last couple of years because we've had additional resources to hire somebody to focus part of their effort on voter outreach and engagement. And so we do have a relationship now with the University of Washington Bothell, where we'll be working with one of their politics class to identify some best practices in voter outreach. We do have a relationship with the high schools. We've been going to Snohomish High School campaign breakfast for the last 7 or 8 years. And so it really is work that we've been working on. We do have more resources now, and I think it's important that we continue to invest those resources in improving turnout.
And Cindy has 45 seconds to respond.
All right, well, Snohomish High School is not the only high school we have in this county, and we used to engage all of them. So looking at those programs and making change within the last year, which is a campaign year, is not good enough. We could have been doing things for the last 10 years, and we could have kept sustaining the programs that were working previously. So when I think about our future, I'm looking like making programs that we continue to use, the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, the high schools, working with the high school students and the future voters, developing those programs. It's not good enough just to say that we're doing it now, this year, with the University of Washington. That's great. We have had 10 years, and we've always had an outreach coordinator. Somebody always had that job.
Thank you. Okay, now this next question, Garth will start with. How would you target people between the ages of 18 to 30 in order to increase their voter participation? You've both of you talked about it a little bit, but.
Yeah, so voters 18 to 30, that is the tough demographic. When you look at who's participating in elections, it is older voters that typically turn out. So in terms of our actual efforts, we have been in more than just Snohomish High School. That was one example. We've gone to Meadowdale High School and participated in their equity forum. We've been out at Bothell High School registering voters. So we've had a long-standing tradition of going out to these events and connecting with young voters. I think one of the great things that's happened recently is the pre-registration of 16 and 17-year-olds. I think that's something we can continue to push and promote. And then certainly I think utilizing social media is something else that we can continue to use to try to connect with younger people.
Okay, Cindy?
Yes, definitely with that age group. I think part of it starts with the training when they are the 16 and 17 and 18-year-olds. That's training in the high schools. That's taking the program back where they used to vote for their student body, where they used to vote for king, queen, that kind of thing. That's a program that needs to be reinstated. They need practice going through the steps of a voter. They need to learn that process. We need to demonstrate what that is. We also need to have better civic programs where we talk about why do they vote? They don't know. They don't see the link between their voting and the future. We need to develop programs that do that. And we have an opportunity to do that with OSPI, and which is a new law that came down. And you know, when we, hold on, wait a minute, I lost my train of thought. When we look at these future voters too, we're looking at the social media, but it's not just Facebook. It's all of the social media, and it's going out in the communities. We need more community interaction. Stop.
Okay, Cindy, take a breath a second, and then turns back to you the next question. What tools do you use to project future property values? Total change of subject.
Wait, we don't.
I clarify that we don't actually do property
Oh, you know,
assessments in
that's
the
right.
auditor's office.
That's
That's
right.
that's for the auditor's, the
That's
assessor's
the
office.
assessor's. Another question then. Okay, should the county be placing additional ballot boxes in communities even if the state is not providing funding for those drop boxes?
Is that me first?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we need to be putting the boxes out regardless of the lack of funding. It's called an unfunded mandate. They've been around forever. Just a little history on those boxes is that that law was generated here in Snohomish County. There was a gal in Granite Falls. She called for every election for 2 years asking for a box in Granite Falls because there are parts in Granite Falls that don't have mail service. Tulalip tribes also asked for a ballot box years and years, almost 10 years I can think. Those people went to their legislators. Their legislators went to the legislative session and they got laws passed. Those laws come from communities just like you. And that ballot box law was passed 3 years ago and you just got your box. It's the integrity of the leaders to implement those laws in a timely fashion. Those laws come from communities just like you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're coming down to the end, but we have just a little bit more time at this point. We've caught up.
Would you like my response?
No. Yes, we would.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I agree, yes, that we do need to continue to put boxes in to meet the mandate that was passed in 2017. That mandate required an additional 20 boxes in Snohomish County. So as soon as it was passed, we developed a plan to get those in, but it was going to take several years. I mean, the reality is you have to negotiate lease agreements with property owners. We don't have eminent domain to go throw a box in where we want. We have to make sure that the boxes are placed in places that'll be convenient for voters, yet not have harmful impacts to the community through like increased traffic and other things. And so we've been working with a variety of communities to get those boxes in. I am pleased to say that we have a box here in Sultan now. There's been a box in Gold Bar for a couple of years. There was a box in Granite Falls certainly originally, and we do have a box in Tulalip. We've been working with Tulalip for several years to try to identify that, and at this point, I'm proud to say that they do have a box as well.
And this is wonderful advertisement because I was asked to remind people that there is a new location in Sultan near the library, near the City Hall, and that there is one in Gold Bar at Gateway Park, and then Monroe near the library. So thanks for leading into that, Garth.
You're welcome.
Okay, going back now, Garth again. We're going to split these two questions because we've caught up a little on time. What have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring attention to?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about the auditor's office, the number one topic is elections. But there are 3/4 of the employees in the auditor's office that are devoted to doing other things. That's vehicle and vessel licensing, marriage licensing, animal services, and legal document recording. And so, as I mentioned in the opening, I was the recording manager for 7 years. The work that they do in those areas it's critical. We touch more people the lives of more people in the county than any other office at the county. And next year we have a new recording system going in. We've got some new requirements for sub-agents for licensing and some major projects in those areas. So I think it's incumbent to have somebody that's been in the office, that's managed in at least one of those areas to continue to provide customer-focused, efficient county services through your auditor's office.
Cindy?
Wonderful. Well, I think that neglected to ask about. I think I'm going to take a little different tact, and I love everything that I heard there. And I guess I'm going to say that, you know, when you're looking at candidates, I'm going to encourage everybody to review the candidates, make sure that you contact us and ask us questions, make sure that you see if we reflect your values, if we've followed through with things that we said. I mean, if you're hearing that you want to increase voter participation for years, is that really happening? If it's not happening, why? I want you guys to feel comfortable in contacting us and asking important questions and looking for research. And I've had many people say, well, I don't know how to research a candidate. Call and ask. You know, there's the PDC, there's Google, there's websites, Facebook, all kinds of things. And I guess I'm just going to encourage, I'm going to do a little PSA right now. You know, make sure that all of the candidates are here today for you.
Thank you. And I'm going to, in between answers, I'm going to remind you about Vote 411, which you were handed as you came in. Just a little nag here from the League of Women Voters. Okay, Garth.
I think that's it.
I'm sorry.
You want to hit me with another question?
No. It would be Cindy's for the last one.
Oh.
What two to three tasks would you want to begin right away?
Oh, right away. I think that we should look at legal compliance. The ballot boxes are not the only thing that are not compliant. There's also a disability advisory committee meetings and such that need to be happening and developed. So legal compliance is a big issue for me. I have a Juris Doctorate from law school. So I also think that future voters, developing programs that develop those voters from the 16 and 17 all the way through, engaging the 19 and 20-year-olds. I think it's important to really develop that program because they are our future voters. They will be voting more and more, especially once they learn how it impacts them in their future. So.
Okay, and Garth?
All right, so I think the most important thing that I will focus on if elected, first off, will be finding a qualified elections manager. That seems to be the first appropriate step. After that, really it's making sure that we conduct a fair, accountable, transparent election in 2020. There's nothing that's going to impact turnout more than making sure that we have people's trust in the process. And so my efforts will be focused there and ensuring that the temporary facility that we'll need to bring on board is properly done, and that additional equipment that we have coming on board to help work with the 2020 election is implemented effectively. So after that, I think really it's a matter of building strong relationships with the other electeds and making sure that we can be a partner in tackling some of the larger county issues. We don't operate in a vacuum here in the auditor's office. We are part of a larger structure. And so I look forward to being able to do that, and I'd appreciate your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much to these candidates. Would you give them a hand, please? And if the judges would be so kind as to come up, and the fire district commissioners would be on deck. We now have enough challenge cards. Have we got everybody by the proper name tag here? That's important, so you actually know who's answering a question. All right. And we're going to start down at the far end with Adrian. And we'll ask the same question that we ask everybody. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this office?
Well, thank you very much and good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the supporters for putting this together. I am the incumbent in this position, which means that I am the only candidate for this position that has proven judicial experience. And what I mean by that is, for the past year, I have been working as a Superior Court judge. I've been presiding over complex and multiple matters involving civil litigation, criminal litigation, family law, and dependency matters. I have also been working on several court committees with the county. I have vast courtroom experience, not just from the judicial position, working on criminal cases as well, but also as a trial attorney, prosecuting crimes during my employment for the county for about 13 years. I have the qualifications for the position, which is now recognized by all the judges on the Snohomish County Superior Court that have endorsed me as a show of their trust in my qualifications. And I've also been rated exceptionally well qualified by multiple committees.
Thank you very much. Okay, next, Anna.
Thank you. My name is Anna Alexander, and I'm also running for position number 7. My qualifications for the job is that I have the most legal experience here. I've been an attorney for nearly 20 years. I have been a prosecutor and a public defender, and for the last 12 years I've run my own private practice, which means I'm a small business owner as well, and I've represented real people and real families in all types of disputes, not just criminal matters, but also civil matters and family law matters. I went to University of Washington for undergrad, and I happen to have the distinction of being the youngest woman ever admitted to the University of Washington Law School. I went to law school at age 19. Besides my long experience as a lawyer, I have also been a judge pro tem since 2008, and I have worked in various jurisdictions and presided over various cases since that time. I'm the president of Snohomish County Washington Women Lawyers, and I hope to have your vote.
Thank you very much. Paul?
Thank you. Thank you to the League. Also, thank you to the City of Sultan for having us here. I am the current sitting judge, position 14, Snohomish County Superior Court. I was appointed to that position late last year by Governor Inslee after a thorough and lengthy vetting process. Since that time, I have presided over every single type of case as a judge that you can hear in a Superior Court. There are no easy cases in Superior Court. I have been making those tough decisions as a neutral and detached decision maker since being appointed. Prior to being appointed to the bench, I was a trial attorney in the trial courts of Washington. I worked as a public defender, first in Chelan County, and then from 2007 until my appointment to the bench as a judge in Snohomish County. In that time, I handled a wide variety of criminal matters. I know what it looks like to go to court with your clients and represent them.
Thank you very much. Cassandra?
Good evening. My name is Cassandra, and I'm running for Superior Court position 14. I put myself through University of Washington and law school with 2 kids and a husband in the Marine Corps, and that requires a lot of balancing. I became a lawyer and I fought for it. It did not come easy for me. I had to work for it. As soon as I became a lawyer, my husband went to Iraq. Once he returned, I worked at a civil law firm downtown in Seattle. Then I decided to commute to be a public defender 90 miles one way to Whatcom County. Thankfully, Snohomish County took me in and said I didn't have to drive as far anymore. Since then, I've worked in private practice. I do civil, I do family, I do criminal. I have done felony trials in 13 different counties, and it takes a lot of bravery, skill, and a lot of commitment to the Constitution to do that. Thank you.
Okay, now we have a little different situation here because we have 4 people, so we're moving down the line. Anna will get this next question first. We'll come this way, move around. Okay, the next question is, what do you think are some of the biggest issues facing the criminal justice system in Snohomish County?
Well, as far as the courts are concerned, it's the amount of criminal trials that are going out and clogging the most of the court from hearing civil matters, I think. And I think the judges here would agree that there are many, many criminal trials that are happening, and frankly, not enough rooms, not enough judicial officers. That's number one. But I think that the most important issue that's facing the Superior Court right now is many judges are retiring. In King County, for example, 18 judges retired, and there were 18 appointments made by the governor, and these are all new judicial officers. In our county, 3. 2 of them have challengers, 1 does not. I heard Judge Downs say that it takes 6 years to get comfortable in other areas of the law that you have never practiced. I have practiced in many, many more areas of the law than my opponent, and so I would be readier from day one.
Thank you. Okay, Paul?
Thank you. Here is the reality of the Snohomish County Superior Court and what we are doing on a daily basis. We are dealing with issues that we are not designed to deal with. We have mental health issues with litigants. There is the opioid crisis. We are dealing with all of these on a daily basis, and we have limited tools to deal with these issues. The reality is that we are also in trial at a huge rate. All of these issues combined make it very difficult for individuals to access the courts and to be heard. We do need to explore alternatives to litigation, to getting cases to court quicker, and to addressing these issues.
Okay, Cassandra?
I was in trial today. I started last Monday, and the trial that I'm in has 14 jurors. The case has been delayed on a couple occasions, and the jurors have had to take extra days from work because there are no interpreters available for the witnesses. So we've had to leave early and start late. And one of the things that I see is that there's a changing demographics in Snohomish County. We just have to deal with it, which requires that everybody who comes into the court can understand what's going on, which means that we need more interpreters of every language. I have an idea to go into the high schools, into the community colleges, and recruit people with language skills who it comes natural to them, have them take the test, and have them work themselves through college while working in our community and helping us. And you.
Thank you. Yadiran?
Thank you. The truth of the matter is that the courts are facing a high number of litigation cases. The high costs of litigation results in a lot of pro se litigants, which are people who are self-representing themselves. And so it results in a delay in the time in which cases are resolved, because most people are new navigating the court systems and really don't understand how to proceed that way. And so that's one thing that the court is seeing, a high increase in the number of self-representing litigants before the court. It is also true, like Judge Thompson acknowledges, which is the reality that we as judges on the bench can see, is that there's an increase in the amount of cases that are influenced by the opioid epidemic. So the high number of drug-related cases, as well as mental health impact on the criminal justice system, is another big problem that the court is facing, and we try to deal with this through the drug court programs, as well as a mental health court that is now being handled in King County, in Snohomish County District Court.
Thank you very much. Okay, now the next few questions, this general question that we asked addresses a lot of different things. The next few questions are a bit more specific on one of the issues that one or another of you have mentioned. Okay, so the next one is, how do you plan to promote access to justice by persons of modest or poverty level means or the homeless? And that would begin with Paul.
We are, as Superior Court judges, we are the gatekeepers to the courthouse. It is our responsibility to ensure that everyone has access to the courthouse and has the ability to have their case be heard. Just one example, and I do come from a public defense background. We absolutely must ensure in our supervisory role that there is actual access to people with moderate means. We need to be involved in the screening process. We need to make sure that every criminal defendant has adequate and good representation. Also, we need to ensure that civil litigants, the reality of the issue at this point, many people are representing themselves. They do not have representation on civil matters. We need to increase access through potentially helping with that process to help unrepresented individuals. Thank you.
Okay, Cassandra?
I've been married for 28 years, and 12 of those years we were well below the poverty line. So for me, it's a shared experience that I would have with someone coming into court. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. Someone doesn't have to explain to me what they're struggling with. It is devastating, and it's very, very difficult to tell someone in public. So I know what it looks like, number one. Number two, I don't speak legalese. I have 16 years as an attorney, and never once have I used legalese, and the reason for it is because I want my clients to understand what I'm saying. As a judge, I think it's super important that if someone is not represented, because some civil and family law, people cannot afford lawyers. So when they come before you, they have to understand what you're saying, and you have to give them access to resources so they can go and prepare their case, and you have to help them with that and show a lot of patience.
Okay, Adhiran?
Access to justice means that as a jurist, you come to this out of service and not ambition, which means that you must be patient with people of modest means who are representing themselves. You must realize the disparities that exist between competent counsel who have law degrees and people who are just trying to navigate the justice system. It requires judges being patient with pro se litigants who are self-represented people. It also means the right to be heard by a fair and neutral jurist. And that means that judges must recognize within themselves their own implicit biases that might stand in the way of impacting other people's access to justice, which means that you must not let your rulings be influenced by predisposed notions. You must continuously examine yourself to make sure that people are being heard and that you're treating people fairly with the respect and dignity they deserve.
Thank you. Anna?
Thank you. So there are very practical, real solutions that this office of judge can actually implement in our courts to allow people of moderate means to be able to go to court and have their day in court and seek justice. Why are people unrepresented, or why do people choose not to go to court even though they need to be there on some dispute? Because it's too expensive. Why is it too expensive? That's because if someone opposing you has deep pockets, they can litigate and litigate and litigate, and you won't be able to afford to keep your lawyer on to have your actual final day of justice in court. There is a way to solve that problem, and it's very easy, actually. It's very practical for the sitting judges to do, and they haven't done it, and that's to change the local rules. Judges actually write the local rules, and they can limit the amount of discovery litigation in civil cases that happens. King County, by the way, has already gone some way to do that. And so that levels the playing field between deep pockets and regular people and families who want to litigate
Thank
in
you.
court.
And we'll start this next question with Cassandra. What are your views on whether the court as a whole deals effectively with racial and gender bias?
I'm going to start off by saying I'm biased on this issue. I was in trial this week, and I had an opposing counsel call me the lady over there to a witness, and I had to correct that counsel, and I asked the court to instruct him to refer to me as defense counsel. Things like that happen every day in court, and it's just a matter of moving, progressing. For example, using pronouns. The world has changed. The way that we review people. There was a juror who, during jury selection, corrected the prosecutor when he was saying that domestic violence only happens between a man and his wife, and this gentleman has a husband. Things like that have to change because people have to feel included and they have to feel heard.
Okay, Adhiran?
Well, judges must realize that these things are real, that gender and racial biases exist. And again, it goes into what I said earlier, recognizing your own implicit bias, because from that point, you can then begin to project outward. I think judges must ensure that everyone coming before them is treated fairly, treated with respect, treated with dignity, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race. The legal system and Lady Justice is blind. We look at people that come before us based on the merits of their disputes and not on the color of their skin or their gender. And I think we as judges inspire people. We need to set the standard in our courtrooms. We can't just talk about it in public forums. We must live it in the way we practice, and that's why almost 70% of the voting attorneys of Snohomish County have rated me more qualified than my opponent for the position.
Anna?
Thank you. I'm president of the Snohomish County chapter of Washington Women Lawyers. And in that role, and frankly my passion, has been promoting gender equality and the proper treatment of not just women litigants in the courtroom, but women lawyers in the courtroom. It's one of the reasons I'm running as well. We women face all sorts of challenges and all sorts of talking down to and frankly mansplaining when we're in court. And it hasn't changed all that much. And it hasn't changed in our courthouse either. And putting up a fight to that, so to speak, is one of my passions and one of the reasons I'm running. I will also say that I'm the only person in the race for this particular position that has actually represented individuals who are being prosecuted, for example, by the government and who are facing the type of discrimination that we're talking about here.
Thank you. And Paul?
Thank you. I am 6 feet tall, I am white, and I have blue eyes. I, as much as I can, recognize what that means. That has absolutely gotten me something in life. I believe that I recognize, again, as much as I can, also what that means on a daily basis. Many of the individuals who come before me simply do not look like me. They are not white, they are not 6 feet tall, they are not male. Again, as much as I can, I attempt to recognize this. I agree with my opponent. We need to make progress. The reality is that in courts everywhere across this state, everywhere across this nation, these issues are front and center, and we need to be aware, we need to acknowledge them, and we need to actually do something about it. I believe that I am attempting in my own practice as a judge to address the issues in the courts that I serve.
Thank you. And we'll start the next question with Adiran. How do you, as a judge or future judge, see yourself addressing some small town issues, such as access to the county courthouse, treatment facilities, and other programs in Everett?
Well, with regards to access to the courthouse, I mean, the courts is open. The courthouse is open to everyone. People are free to approach the courts and file papers with the court. I think access to the courthouse can be improved in several ways. One thing is we as judges need to be able to make our services more user-friendly. Too often, it is so difficult for new people navigating the criminal justice system to navigate the broad hurdles that they find. And I think if we can, for example, electronic filing, a way by which court documents can be filed online, can reduce the amount of travel, reduce the amount of cost involved in litigants having to come from various distances to the courthouse to file papers. So I think that's something we're working on, which is like electronic filing. We need to make our services more user-friendly. The courts need to be working constantly with the different facilities that provide treatment in the community.
Thank you. Anna?
Thank you. As someone who has actually reached out to mayors of various small towns, I have had really interesting conversations about what happens in rural communities like Sultan, for example, or Darrington, where people tend to be able to live because they can afford to live there, but they have to commute for jobs hours and hours back and forth. And so at the end of the day, when they come home, they're tired, they're exhausted, they don't want to participate in civic life, and they certainly can't take time off from work to go to court to have whatever is needed in a courtroom done. But having the private practice experience of being able to travel to various places and see how other places do things. For example, in Island County District Court, you can now make an appearance at a local library via video feed for a court calendar. That can happen at the Sultan Library. That can happen in all sorts of other places. And these are the kinds of things that I would be happy to work on to implement because I've been there talking to people in these small communities.
Thank you. Paul?
I was a career public defender. I know very well what it looks like to live a long way from the courthouse. If you don't have a driver's license, it is difficult to access our services. If you don't have money to catch the bus, you're just not going to get down there. I'm very cognizant, I believe, of small town issues and distance to the courthouse. We absolutely need to go to e-filing. It is one of my priorities. It is still amazing to me that I've been able to file my taxes online for over a decade. You can't file a document in Snohomish County Superior Court online. That needs to end. We need e-filing. That would cut down on cost to litigants, that would actually allow for access to the courts for everyone, if you can do that. Also, and this still amazes me, is my understanding that the small county of Okanagan actually gives bus passes to people to access drug court. We have alternative courts in our county, and we're not helping people actually engage in those services we need to.
Thank you. And Cassandra?
Thank you. I agree with electronic filing, as my colleagues have said. However, I think it starts with the forms. The forms have to be made available online with explanations on how to fill them out, because you can't file it if you don't know how to fill it out. So that's number one, and that can reach everybody across the county. Having them available in different languages with instructions on how to fill them out is also helpful. One of the things that I noticed sitting in endless calendars in Superior Court is less calendars in Skagit County, King County, Pierce County. If my client and I agree we're going to continue a case, we can sign a form and provide it, and my client doesn't have to take the day off from work to come to court. And I think this Snohomish needs to move to something like that so people can actually come to court less.
Okay. Who or would you balance with?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Sorry, cut out, yeah. How do you or would you balance mercy with justice in your court?
Well, that's a beautiful question, because judges, by virtue of where they sit, I like to say they sit up high on a high bench, and they literally, quite literally, look down at people. And unless you have been down there with a person or a family who has chosen you as their lawyer to represent them in their most stressful day of need, whether it's a criminal matter or whether it's a family law matter or a child custody dispute or a civil dispute or a land use dispute, and they have chosen you and you have stood with them looking up at that judge, you don't have the perspective, frankly, that is needed in order to make that balance true. I'm the only one in this race who has had an actual client as a person or as a family. And I think that that's a unique and very important experience that our judicial officers should be required to have.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you. If we are talking about the criminal context, there is always the difficult balance to be had between mercy to the actual individual and justice. And these things are difficult at times to sort out. The courts and judges are directed to engage in individualized sentencing. What that means is that we need to take everything that that individual is bringing in front of us. We also need to consider the underlying facts which brought them in front of us. I am not making a political comment, as we cannot, but many judges across the state have expressed frustration with the current version of the mandatory sentencing scheme. This was brought into effect, I believe, in 1984. The current, most newest version should be in effect within 2 years, and that will give us more flexibility to actually address issues. Again, I had clients. I represented thousands of people. I understand what they actually bring and what we should consider. when making those
Thank you.
decisions.
Cassandra.
Representing tons of people every day, all day long, way up until 9 o'clock at night sometimes, I find myself being a parent more than a lawyer sometimes. And I think that the balance between mercy and justice is a lot like parenting. We know when we have to be firm, we know when we have to be disciplined, because it's what's safe and what it's in their best interest long term. We also know when to show kindness to our children. My oldest is 27 years old. She's a pilot in the Navy, active duty. My son is Marine Corps tank commander. He's 25 and just came home from deployment this past weekend. Raising them, I learned you can't treat everybody the same. You have to talk to them based on their skill set and also their experiences. And so I bring to you 27 years of very tough discipline, and I have 2 kids serving you to show for it.
For many years, I was the one walking into the courtroom amplifying the voices of victims as a prosecuting attorney for the county. I was prosecuting cases that involved sexual and physical abuse against children, against women, homicides, and murders. So I recognize what it is to have a family reaching out for justice. And then I also realize, as a prosecutor, what it is to hear families asking for mercy. I think as judges, we need to realize what role we play. In the criminal justice system, to a large extent, our discretion is taken away by the sentencing guidelines. But within those areas where we have discretion, we have to believe, first of all, that humans can be rehabilitated, and we also have to realize that mercy and justice for everyone is part of our role as judges. We are there to do the right thing. We are there to make sure that people have their day in court.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Oh, thank you. I guess 2 questions. What have we neglected to ask, and what 2 to 3 tasks would I work on right away? I am solely endorsed by all 14 of my colleagues on the Snohomish County bench. I am also endorsed by every sitting Snohomish County District Court judge. So I have the sole endorsement of 22 judicial figures at the county level. I also have a wide range of support from labor groups, law enforcement. I'm endorsed by the Snohomish County Sheriff's Association, Everett Police Officers Guild, Edmonds, Arlington, Linwood as well. I have also been endorsed by WACOPS, the umbrella organization for all law enforcement agencies in the state. I do have a wide range of support. As I seek to retain position 14, I am asking for your vote in November. Thank you.
Cassandra?
I've never been endorsed. I got here today, which is a miracle, by not having really strong support and endorsement. Thankfully, I had a husband who pushed me all the time and telling me I could do it. I'm looking for the endorsement of one group and one group only in this election, and that's the voters of the Snohomish County. I am independent. One of the reasons why I'm not endorsed by the long list is because I am independent. I think for myself, and I do what is right. Also, one of the things that I wish that I was asked is the languages. It's actually, you guys are really interesting. There are 3 people on this panel who have immigrant stories and who have language skills, and that's amazing. So I think that everyone's lucky to get to pick from that sort of background. Thank you.
Adirin?
More importantly than anything we tell you today about our qualifications is what do the people who know us, all of us as lawyers, think about us. And so for the position, my opponent's own group, the Washington Women Lawyers Association, has rated me exceptionally well qualified to retain my position. I have the endorsement and support of all the judges of the Snohomish County Superior Court, over 100 judges statewide. I have the endorsement of 9 law enforcement agencies, including the Washington Council of Police and Sheriff, the WACOPS Council as well. I have the endorsement and support of many attorneys who worked in my opponent's office, who worked against me when I was a prosecutor, who have also supported and endorsed me. I have the endorsement of members of the community who trust my judgment and my thought process. And I also want to recognize the fact that I have the support of Sam Lowe here, who has also endorsed and shown me his trust in my qualifications by validating my position on the bench.
Thank you. Anna.
Thank you. What I wish I was asked, I'd like to tell you, is that I did come 30 years ago from the former Soviet Union. I was a refugee, a child. My mom, who's here, wave to everyone, Mom, and my dad brought my sister and I here to seek a better life. And one of the things that I was 12 years old, so I remember very well what it was like to live in a communist regime. I love this country. I love our Constitution. I love what it stands for, and I would love to have your vote for the position to uphold the Constitution on our courts. I have many endorsements that you can see on the cards that are printed, including I'm very proud of many of the mayoral endorsements that I have, as well as many of the labor and firefighter endorsements that I have. I am one of the most qualified.
Thank you very much.
To have your vote.
You know, all of the candidates are showing such restraint because 60 seconds is not very long. So I want to thank these folks. Will you give them some applause? And when they leave, we'll have the fire commissioner. Take your water glass. That would be wonderful. The housekeeping part. Appreciate it. And if we could have the Sultan Mayor candidates on deck at the table down here, that would be lovely. All right, the first question, as we've asked everybody, and we will start on that end with Deborah, and then we'll go to Stephen, and then Stephen will answer 2 in a row, and just like we do every time with 2. And that is, what qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this office?
Well, first I'd like to thank the forum host. This is a great opportunity. I have an MBA in accounting and finance. I spent 35 years in financial management and as a project and program manager. I've managed projects that ranged in value from $30,000 to $10 million and programs as large as $60 million. My career also included disaster response and recovery planning. I've completed many FEMA courses and helped agencies update their emergency response plans, and that included training them in ICS, the Incident Command System, that's used by first responder organizations. I've helped government agencies optimize their operations by implementing new measurements to help them identify where to focus improvements and where staffing might need training or changes in duties, etc. And finally, I've held elected office before. I helped incorporate the city of Kenmore, served 2 terms on the council, and as mayor. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. John, Stephen?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. You first elected me to this job in 1996, and I've chaired the board now for 8 years. I've also served as a volunteer here for 6 years, and I've helped transition our department from an all-volunteer department with about 350 calls a year to today's innovative blended department responding to about more than 1,100 calls this year. My leadership is recognized by other fire district commissioners who elected me as a trustee to a multi-county commissioners association. I'm a proven collaborator known for working with the school district, the public utilities, the city, and others. I continually seek partnerships to enhance the service without unnecessary costs. In short, in me, you get an established track record, a proven leadership who can plan for the valley. Thank you.
Thank you. And you get the next question as well. This is kind of a long one. A lot of growth is coming to the City of Sultan and Snohomish County Fire District 5. It's expected that we will see over 650 new homes in the next few years. If elected, what is your plan to assure that emergency service levels keep pace with growth?
Your fire commissioners have been planning to support this since about 2004 when we first started to read the county's comprehensive plan and the City of Sultan's comprehensive plan. One of the first things that we did is decide that we're going to need an additional station and where to put that. We decided to put it slightly on the edge of town, up out of the floodplains, and more centered towards where the new growth is going to be. We bought that land in 2004, and then we were planning to build a station. And in 2008, when the economy went south on us, we realized that we just can't do that. We can't ask to build a new house for us while people are trying to hang on to their own house. Well, the economy has come back, so have we. So have all the new houses that were being planned. So to that end, we're back on schedule now. We've also been using a financial model, thanks to Commissioner Koppel, that helps us plan for our long-term needs so that we can figure out where our money is, where we're going, and keep following our plan to help grow the community.
Thank you. And Deborah.
Thank you. There's been a lot of planning that's been done, but I see it take a very long period of time. And a lot of the focus that I've watched happen at the fire district is around the financials. And that's a very important component. But there are a lot of other things that need to be looked at to determine where is growth really needed. How does the growth that's coming to us actually impact increases in fire services that are requested? So I propose that we also bring additional metrics to make sure that we have the right performance measures to determine when we have needs, like hiring another firefighter or adding new vehicles, or do we have training needs that we suddenly have more requirements for, let's say, swiftwater rescue because of the added recreation in the area. Right now we don't have anything to help us target that other than just general measures. And I think it's very important that we start to look at these things in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Stephen? No, wait, you both did that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Your turn again. Sorry. Okay. Now, this is kind of connected to the last question, but it's a part neither of you addressed, and that is, do you support merging with District 7?
You know, sometimes I wonder why it's only fire departments that focus on merging. You know, the schools aren't planning on merging, the cities, the counties, they're not planning on merging. Right now, the Board of Commissioners at District 5 hasn't really discussed the issue, so we don't really have a plan to merge with anyone. And right now, as I look at the benefits of the community, merging is unclear. Brian Snur is an attorney that is used by many fire departments throughout the state. And he conducts many, many classes in helping us all to learn a lot of things. And he also conducts classes to help us learn all about mergers, and he's helped several departments merge. And at these classes, when it comes up at the end, he kind of scratches his head and says, you know, no one's actually saved any money that he knows of anywhere in mergers.
Thank you. And I made the error on this one. It should have been Deborah's turn again first. So what we're going to do after she finishes, we'll let her go again this next time. But go ahead and answer this question.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Could you actually repeat the question?
Certainly. It was, do you support merging with District 7, right? No, did we just do that?
Yeah, I think that's the question.
That's it. Okay. All right.
I haven't seen any proposals or any interest expressed either here locally or heard from District 7 that a merger is being considered. So I actually have no opinion to start out with about whether a merger should happen. But let me tell you about how I would go about it if one were proposed. That's that I would take a look at it analytically. I'd also want to have open forums with you, the public, to determine, is this something you're even interested in? really look hard at the numbers. And then it's important to know that ward commissioners can do one thing around a merger, and that's take it forward for a vote by you, the citizens. In other words, a merger isn't decided by the commissioners, it's decided by you. You need to be educated if a proposal came, and that's how I would address it.
Okay, thank you. Now to you again. What do you think are the most important environmental issues our county will face due to changing climate, related, of course, to the fire district?
Well, related to the fire district, I see two issues. First, it's increased wildfire danger here in our area, and then also the effects of more extreme winter storms like snowstorms. I remember something back in February along those lines. Also, extreme winds and flooding. Wildfires could easily overwhelm our district's resources. We have wildland both north and south of us, or within our district at the north and south end. And there's already an identified extreme wildfire danger around the Cedar Ponds area. And that's due to what's called the wildlife-urban interface, where there are homes surrounded by forest land, and there's a lot of recreation and human interaction. So what I see happening is that we need to get more information out to our public, especially around the wildfire danger and extreme weather events, so that we're prepared, and I propose to do that in our quarterly newsletter as reminders.
Thank you. And Stephen?
I'm not an expert in climate change, so I'm just going to defer to Dr. Cliff Mass from the University of Washington and his blog page. Cliff states that if climate change is not mitigated, the Puget Sound area can expect to look like Northern California in about 50 years. Well, you know, this could cause a significant change to our forest and the types of trees, and we have a tremendous fuel load on this side of the Cascades. So the biggest problem that I see that emerging for us is wildland fire. We both agree on that. But who would have thought our green belts downtown would become fire risks? That's something we never thought about. Fire District 5 is already mitigating these risks and others by building a large capacity of our new public safety center. We have a big emergency operations center that we're planning to do that's funded mostly by other groups and people. So we were able to get $1.5 million from the state to do that, and we've used that, leaving a significant amount of that money left for the rest of the station. Thank you.
Okay, and Deborah starts first on the next question. When public money is used to hire people, do you feel it is important to have a competitive, open process to get the best candidate?
Well, I can have a really short answer, and that'd be absolutely. Any public monies, I believe, should follow the appropriate purchasing and that processes, and that includes having open public process and appropriate numbers of bids before you make a decision.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. When public money is used to hire people, do you feel it is important to have a competitive process to get the best candidate?
For hiring in general, I believe that's the right thing to do. Sometimes, though, inside our own district, I will admit that we do tend to hire some of inside people, and we've done that pretty successfully for many years. In terms of open bidding processes for jobs that are over $10,000, although I believe that's been recently changed, yeah, we follow all the state laws for that too.
Okay, and now we come down to the last two questions, and we will let you two choose or use parts of the two. What have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring attention to? And what are 2 to 3 tasks that you would want to begin right away to work on if you're elected? And I'd like to just make a comment here. We probably didn't make this clear, but we were talking about what we neglected to ask. We were talking about issues really more than endorsements. So I didn't tell you all you couldn't say that, but we're looking at issues here. So if you all would please do that, that would be great. And, oh, I'm sorry. And you would start, Stephen.
You know, I look at the top 2 or 3 things that we have, and all of us have a big shopping list of things that we'd like to do. We all have that. But for me, it all boils down to 2 key things: to ensure that every single day that our chief and his staff and our firefighters have the necessary equipment they need to go out and make calls, to respond to the calls. That's our business. We have to be in a position to do that. The second most important thing that I think we have out there is to be able to complete this public safety center that we started. We've gotten money from a lot of places. We're able to get our loans completed there. The good news at 2.83% interest is pretty good for 19 years. But every day that we delay and chase after shiny objects, some other things that are not directly related to getting that station done on time, increases the cost of that project. And a significant delay of that project could take that project off of our plate of being able to complete it. Those are the two most important things that I think we have.
Okay, and Deborah.
Thank you. 2 to 3 tasks that I would begin right away if I were elected. First, really get serious about planning for the coming growth. I talked about how do we define trigger points that tell us when we need to add staff or add a new vehicle, et cetera. That's doing the support that Steve talked about, making sure that the right tools and equipment and training are in the hands of our first responders to help you. The second thing I'd like to do is look at developing new revenue sources. I looked at a couple of things. There's been talk about how do we take care of no man's land areas where homes are outside our district and not in another district. We don't have a billing mechanism, or have we made efforts to see if we can annex them in, work with them to get them annexed in so they pay property taxes as well. I'd like to address that. And in conjunction with that, I'd like to work with the city council to potentially have impact fees for the fire department so that growth pays for growth, and we'll need to get the city council to do that for us.
Thank you very much. So let's give these two candidates a big hand. And if you two will take your water glasses, please, and we will see the Sultan mayor candidates, and if the city council will come to being on deck. Thank you very much. She's going to tell you. So I want to warn these two candidates and the further candidates is that the longer this forum gets on, the more questions the audience is coming up with. So you got to be ready to answer some good ones. First one, though, is, and we're going to start with Russell. What qualifications and experiences make you a strong candidate for this office?
All right. Well, thank you, and thank you to the League and Snow Owl Libraries for putting on this forum and the school district for hosting us. My work on the City Council for the last 4 years, as well as my work regionally on the County Council, has prepared me for this position. I think community input is one of the biggest drivers for what we do at the city. We represent you, and so your voice is necessary. So going out and reaching out to the community is one of the biggest things that all of us as elected officials need to do, and that I think I'm well positioned to do. In my role on the City Council, I've done a lot of community outreach. I've been available. And as I go door to door talking to folks during this election, that's one of the biggest things I hear is wanting to feel more connection to the city, to City Hall, and like people are listening. So I've got the experience to do that, and I plan on bringing that to the office of mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And John?
Well, the position of a strong mayor is very much like the CEO of a corporation. The mayor actually is the administrative officer. I take that role very seriously. I have 38 years of operations management experience. I have over 25 years of union negotiation experience. We've come a long way in the last 2 years. We've done a lot of improvements in town, and there's more to come.
Okay, and then it's going to come back to you again. And this is, with the growing population in the county, what will you do regarding helping our most vulnerable? That is, those dealing with mental health issues, homelessness, or opioid drug addiction.
Well, we already have a program as far as the homelessness. It's called the Embedded Social Worker Program. We reach out, ask them if they need help. If they accept it, they get the help. And I'm a little harder on this situation. I think that if a person doesn't want help and is camping out on public lands, I think they need to move along.
Russell?
Yeah, start out by agreeing with John that we need to be tough on folks that aren't going to accept help. The two-pronged approach of the embedded social worker program, one is the compassion for folks and helping them get out of rough times, but with the folks dealing with mental health issues and drug addiction, that doesn't come easily, and so you have to have that hammer to really force that issue. So having a strong law enforcement presence there. I will say, though, I think there's more that we could do. We, through our contract with the Sheriff's Office, have access to the embedded social worker, but we've had conversations at council, and it hasn't gone very far, and it's something I'd be the leader of working with the City of Monroe to possibly share with their dedicated embedded social worker. It's something that we'd get more attention to the issue and more direction on how we address the issue, and that's something I'd be a leader for if elected.
Thank you. And you get this next one again. What ideas do you have to spur business growth in the Valley?
So I think first and foremost, we need to go out and we need to talk to our folks. We need to have good connections to the businesses that are already here, find out what's working, find out what's making it tough for them to stay open. I serve on the board for the Chamber of Commerce, and so get access to a lot of information and working with our chamber, but really having those sit-downs, those one-on-ones with business owners to figure out what's the existing conditions on the ground. I think that's first and foremost, is identifying that. Second of all is going outside of our city limits, outside of our valley, to possibly bring people in. My work, as I mentioned, with the county council, I've got relationships with folks with the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County and others that I can use to leverage in favor of the city of Sultan, and going out there to talk to businesses who maybe have never looked at Sultan and say, what would it take for you to come here? And I have the experience to do that.
And John?
I would agree with the first part of your statement, Russell. We already do have new businesses coming here. We've got a new pizza place coming in at the corner of 3rd and Main. O'Reilly's Auto Parts is coming to town. And we do need to reach out to our community to find out what they want, what you as a population would love to see in your city. We have future retail space up on the 3-lane, just east of the Chevron station. There's 14.5 prime acres available.
Thank you. Okay, and you get the next question as well. How could you help promote inclusiveness in a valley that is diverse and includes some very strident voices?
Oh, that's a tough one. We don't have a whole lot of minority population. We have a very active VOA campus, and they do a lot of work in that area. They have bilingual staff available, and we'll just, you got me there. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, Russell?
Thank you. I think, one of the biggest things, and I mentioned this, is going out into the community and talking to people where they are. It's nice to have an opportunity for folks to come and have coffee with the mayor, but that happens on a weekday during your work time. So going out and talking to folks, and regardless of what communities they come from, we've got HOAs, PTAs, different community groups, or we could be out there, and I plan on being out there as mayor to talk to folks who either can't or don't think they should come to City Hall and go where people are. Those of us who are in elective office or running for elective office, we're comfortable walking into City Hall and talking to people. A lot of people aren't. So going where they are, I think, is a big step in addressing those issues and identifying where those gaps might be.
Okay, and Russell, you get this one again. And this one is sort of directed to the challenger. How will the role of mayor change if you're in the job? But I think, John, you might be able to speak about what you would like to see in the future for changes in the mayor's office. Okay, but we'll let Russell go first.
I think the biggest thing that will change, and this is going to be a constant theme, and it's in response to what I'm hearing at the door, is the involvement of the mayor in the community. I think that there's a lot of importance to what the mayor does, in City Hall, and I got to give credit to the staff that we have. They do a great job of our day-to-day operations, getting the sidewalks done, streets repaired, utilities operating. But what we need is a mayor and a leader who's going to go out into the community, who's going to bring the people's perspective to City Hall and work with our paid staff who they're paid to be there day-to-day, bring that community voice. And so that's going to be one of the biggest things. The other thing is strategic planning. we do a lot of things at the city, but what I'd like to see and what I will lead is a strategic planning effort to identify concerns the community has, work with staff and experts to get the relevant information, and then work with the mayor and community back to put a strategic plan together with specific goals and then objectives that we can meet to accomplish a shared vision. Thank you.
John?
Well, having been in the position for just about 2 years now, I've taken a more hands-on approach than past mayors. I'm there every day, minimum 4, 5, 8 hours a day, working close with staff to get things done. What I'd heard from a lot of residents, they'd like to see downtown fixed up. They'd like to not see homeless laying around. They would like to see road repairs and curb repairs and sidewalks. And we've instituted a very, very aggressive program. Maybe some of you've noticed downtown. New striping, improvements all over, and we're going to continue that if I'm reelected mayor.
Okay, thank you. And that actually leads right into the next question. So maybe you can give us a few more details about what are we doing about the roads and traffic with all the growth?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I think Highway 2 is probably our biggest problem. It always has been. It will be for a while. I've been on the US 2 Traffic Safety Coalition for 23 years. I've made over 130 trips to Olympia to try to get funds for safety enhancements. But it's time to take the bull by the horns. We're going to be chartering a bus, and we're going to be heading down to Olympia en masse to shake their legislature's tree. The Band-Aids need to stop. We need to deal with capacity. Capacity is the whole thing. That's what's holding up development and will hold up development. At some point, they will fail traffic studies.
Thank you. And Russell?
Yeah, I think the mayor and I probably agree on Highway 2 and the concerns there and the strategies for getting it addressed. I think we've got some great representation in the 39th district and our former mayor that we haven't had before. And so we've got a strong voice in Olympia for the Valley, for Highway 2 improvements. I think one of the things we need to do, and I'll be a leader on, is creating a coalition up and down the Valley and frankly across the state. The tourist destinations on the other side of the pass are affected by the traffic issues that we have here. And so we need to be talking to them. We need to be coordinating our efforts, coordinating our message, and going down to Olympia. We're a small city of 5,000. We don't carry a lot of political weight in Olympia. But if we can manage a coalition up and down the Valley, I think that's something we can do. The other thing is the east-west connector that we're working on here in town to give access from the Sultan Basin to downtown so that when the traffic's bad on Highway 2, our residents can at least get around town easily. And that's something that I've been supportive of and will continue to be.
Thank you. You all are doing really great on time. I want to congratulate you on that. Okay, last part, then we'll put together these two famous last questions and let you answer what part of them you would like to, what we've neglected to ask about some issues that you'd like to bring attention to, or what are the 2 or 3 tasks you would want to begin right away to work on if you were elected?
Me first?
Yes, yes.
So talk about the task when elected. So Fritz is going to be doing an inventory of all the current and potential future needs of all our departments in the city. And that's a big part of that strategic planning, is identifying our situation currently. And so going department by department and figuring out what those needs are, working with the staff, working with the council to figure out where those priorities are so we can take something to the community that so they can give their input on. The second is going to be meeting with each council member, meeting with business and community leaders to figure out what their priorities are. The mayor doesn't operate in a vacuum. It's their priorities, but also putting the community's priorities forward. So need to identify that, and that's going to be one of the first things I do, is meeting with all the relevant stakeholders to figure out what do we want to see. And the third thing I want to do is convening a citizens working group. It's going to be part of that specific strategic planning effort, but also part of a larger effort of making sure that what we do and how we reach out to folks is the way that they're comfortable being reached out to. So those are 3 things I do right away.
And John?
My first and foremost concern is Highway 2. I think it's where everything begins and ends in the city. We live or die by Highway 2. I think we should concentrate our efforts in lobbying. We are fortunate to have a great representative in the state legislature, Carolyn Eslick. I believe she's hiding over there. She's very familiar with this, but the highway's not fixed, not much else is gonna happen. We have met with our staffs. We do know what our long-range needs are, and we're still putting that together. So, but I think first and foremost, Highway 2, and then infrastructure.
Okay, and we want to thank these two candidates. And we'll see the city council. What's your order there? We have at the end Callie? And Kenneth? Okay. And Mary Ann is third and Stephanie is fourth. All right. If I do it wrong, I apologize. All right, for you four, this question we've heard all night. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this office? We'll start with Tally, go this way. Then next time we'll start with Kenneth. Yeah.
Perfect. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here tonight. My qualifications to be a Sultan City Council member are: I earned my executive master's degree from the University of Washington, Daniel Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. I have a bachelor's degree in human services, and before that I was a chemical dependency or SUD professional in the state of Washington. I hold leadership positions for the last 11 years, including 2 nonprofits that I've managed large budgets with high public accountability, and I continue to do that today. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Ken Marshall, and I was on the city council for 2 years. I was appointed. I know what's going on. I've been there. I've done it, and I feel like there's some more room for improvement. So I'll run again.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Marianne Naisland. I'm a 1988 graduate of Everett High School. We bought our house in Sultan in '93 and raised our family here. Private industry, I worked for Dwayne Lanes Chrysler for 7 years before going to work at Sultan City Hall for 3 years in the late '90s. I've worked for the Sultan School District for 15 years, where for 5 years I was the union president for non-teaching staff, grade school secretary treasurer for PTA. I was president of the Senior Parents Association for Safe and Sober Grad Night Party for Sultan High School graduating classes of 2010 and 2013. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, and I've previously served on Sultan City Council as an elected official 2014 to 2017. I've been the Sultan Shindig volunteer for 22 years, and I was the 2017 Sky Valley Citizen of the Year.
And Stephanie.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Aldrich. Thank you all for being here tonight. Really appreciate that. So I moved here with my husband back in 2016, and about a year after that, I felt like I needed to get involved with the community. I have a real sense for volunteering in the community. That stemmed back from me being in 4-H and Girl Scouts all my life. So I went and I heard about the position opened on the Sultan City Council, and I went to my first meeting, and I kind of noticed that maybe they were in need of someone with a fresh face and a new voice like me. After I got appointed, and that was about a year and a half ago. Since then, the council and I have supported putting together a new website that was way more easier to navigate, more organized. We've had a new configurement upstairs at up at City Hall. So basically, there was possibly a safety hazard with that. So we move that around so it's a little easier for people. And we've also online bill paying. That's a lot. We've also gotten rid of the $7 convenience fee everybody loved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start this next one with Kenneth. And we have a question that was sent to you that is connected to one that was turned in, so I'm going to try to put this together. We asked you, what is the most major issue facing Sultan? And a audience member asked, what is your biggest priority for Sultan? So one might assume that those are the same, but not necessarily. So if you wanted to talk about what you think is the most major issue and what is your priority, and timers, this is a big change for you right now, but would you give them 90 seconds instead of 60 seconds? Thank you.
I believe that the biggest challenge that we have for Sultan that's coming to us is housing and transportation. We've got 600 houses coming this way, and we still have a 2-lane highway, and we've got lots of traffic stoplights that aren't synced. We need to work towards the state giving us money to create Highway 2 to be a safe transit highway and also less congestion. I know that my personal self, I get frustrated. You don't go anywhere on Sunday. Trying to come into Sultan on a Friday, it's a joke. It's one of those things that I love where we live and I love the area and the sereneness of it, but it just doesn't work anymore because people need to be out here because of the cost of living. Secondly, I would like to see that we revitalize our downtown and get people to stop when they're coming through our town, not be known just because of the Sultan Bakery.
It's not a bad stop. Just saying. I'm sorry. Mary Ann.
I agree. Highway 2 is quite an issue, especially on Friday and Sunday. We've lived here for 26 years, and I avoid it at all costs. I cannot fix those things. I will not even try to promise you that I can fix those things. The things that I'd like to focus on is an alternate transportation route from Sultan Basin Road to town without having to go on Highway 2, and from Trout Farm Road across the Sultan River to the west end of town. Those things I can work on, and I would love an opportunity as an elected official to pursue finding some alternate transportation routes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Stephanie.
Yeah, my thing is growth and also traffic on Highway 2. One of the things I'd like to do is keep implementing the comp plan and keep looking for improvements such as what Mary Ann was saying about having that east-west connector, because right now we have residents up on the basin that can't get into town on the weekends, and also if people are living in town and they have residents up on the basin, they sometimes can't go up and visit their family members up there. So I feel like if we have that connector, we can have possibly more of so the people up the basin can come down on the weekends and also enjoy the events such as Shindig and 3-on-3 basketball that we all know and love. Thank you.
And Tally?
Perfect. I'm going to go academic here for a second. So I've heard many times tonight about how we need to get more strategic about what we're doing in Sultan. And there's a Harvard professor named Michael Moore who created the strategic triangle that provides a comprehensive framework for strategic management in the public sector. One of those pillars is creating public value, and public value proves that people's lives are improved as a result of the services we provide or the projects we commission. We are not paying enough attention to improving transportation issues. We are not paying enough attention to economic growth in downtown Sultan. And we are not paying enough attention to what makes people's lives in Sultan better. And it goes across our valley, our sister cities. We're only one. We're 2 times the size of Gold Bar and about 25 times the size of Index. But we need a coalition of these cities, these sister cities across our area that comprises of the Sky Valley. Our quality of life issues that impact us also impact Gold Bar, also impact Startup, also impact Index. We need to build a coalition to be stronger as one force than divided as many. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move this one on to Mary Ann as a start. And that, by the way, there was a question about transportation that you all have already answered, so thank you. Okay. This is the next one, though. Would you consider holding community open house forums to stay more in touch with the community? How do you do that when so many people here work during the day?
thank you. That's an interesting question because our city council meetings are pretty much treated as open forum where numerous people come out and ask questions and tell us what they think. Coffee with the mayor on Friday mornings is another opportunity for people to come out. We've found that notoriously people don't want to come to more meetings, that we have a sufficient amount of meetings. Those that want to get involved do get involved. Those that don't just turn to social media to find out what's going on or ask their neighbors. So I'm all for no additional meetings per se. Thank you.
Stephanie?
I feel like it's important to be out there, especially as a sitting council member out in the public, volunteering. I've been volunteering a lot of hours with the Sky Valley Youth Coalition, meeting all those young people out there. They're amazing. And also I've been attending a lot of the Sultan Community Alliance things that they put on, especially the trunk or treat. Another thing I've been doing is I've adopted not one, but 2 streets in Sultan. I've done Alder Avenue and also 5th Street. I feel like being out there in my community, hearing all your voices definitely helps bring your opinions and your priorities to the table, which I feel like are very important. Thank you.
Okay, and Callie?
What I'm going to say is Dave Moon and Turk TV, thank you, you're awesome. Thank you. What I'm also going to say is I am a founding member of the Sky Valley Youth Coalition. I was a founding member of the Sultan Community Alliance. I work every day to make sure that people in our communities know what's going on. For the last 11 years, I was fortunate enough to live and work in the Sky Valley. For the last 1 year, I've been a commuter, and it is changing how I view my daily life. So there's a gap there, and we need to figure out media outlets, how we're communicating with people is one of my top priorities for how we will move forward in Sultan. And there's other ways to do that. Again, you're awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and Kenneth?
I believe that we could probably look into some way that there could be like an inbox that is an email, basically, that every council meeting, the questions at hand could be brought to the council without someone showing up, because time is of the essence. Everybody works so much nowadays. Everybody's got families and kids and basketball and football and soccer and you name it, it's happening. If there's an easier way and an avenue to do it, I believe it would maybe be like an email inbox that could be brought, and then after the question is answered, it can be responded to. That way the person has the option to be able to ask their question but not be put in a position where they have to choose going to their kid's soccer game or going and ask a question at a council meeting.
And this next one, Stephanie starts with, and she gave us some of an answer to this, but not all of it earlier. What does community mean to you? Name some of the causes you devote your time to in Sultan.
Community means, to me, it's all of, when I moved to Sultan, they all welcomed me with open arms. It was amazing to see how I got to know everybody super fast, even not being here very long. I was able, or as I said before, I've been volunteering my time at Sky Valley Youth Coalition, and also doing things with the Sultan Community Alliance, which I feel like is very important to have that in your community. Brings you together in all kinds of different situations, and that's it.
Callie?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What does community mean to you? Name some of the causes you devote your time to in Sultan.
So community to me is a group of people that has a common connection. It doesn't necessarily mean where you live, especially in Sultan. Once kids from Startup Gold Bar Index reach middle school age, they come to Sultan Middle School and Sultan High School. It's how we spend our time and how we interact with each other. Some of the causes I've committed my time to in Sultan, my family was a small business owner in Sultan for more than 10 years in the late 80s, early 90s. Again, created the Sky Valley Youth Coalition. I was instrumental and wrote a grant to bring student support advocates and mental health professionals to Sultan High School and Sultan Middle School. I designed the Sky Valley Elderly Nutrition Delivered, or the SEND program, that's Meals on Wheels for seniors in East County. It's a founding member of the Sultan Community Alliance. And we were the embedded social worker program. Carolyn Eslick, Monty Beaton, and myself were the embedded social worker program before it ever had a title. We started that here in East County, and it's so successful today. We have so much to celebrate in Sultan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Kenneth.
Community to me is Sultan. You need help, somebody steps up. A few of the things that I put my time and effort into is the smoking turkeys for the harvest on Thanksgiving, tree lighting. We've done the 3-on-3 basketball tournament. We're helping this year with the bonfire for the Turks. All the giving back of what we do, I love doing it. I have my children there and teach them that, to be able to give back and see that. And hopefully one day they'll be able to do the same.
And Marianne?
I grew up in a Navy family and we moved around quite a bit, so I did not know what community was. However, when I had my children, I wanted to have a community. I wanted them to be raised where everyone knew them and I knew what they did before they even got home from school. I found that in Sultan, and I have been so blessed to raise my kids here. I met Debbie Koppel soon after we moved here in 1996, and she reeled me in. I will do anything and everything for Debbie and Carolyn Eslick. All they got to do is pick up the phone, and I'm there for them. To me, that's community. I love it here.
Okay, thank you. And so now we're going to go to the last question. We'll put the two things together again. We'll start with Callie, and that is, what have we neglected to ask you that you would like to bring attention to on issues? And what 2 to 3 tasks you would want to begin right away? Some combination of that.
Thank you. So the 2 to 3 tasks I would want to begin right away. Number 1 is transportation investments. I've heard for a lot of years that we can't improve Highway 2, it's a DOT thing, we can't do this, we can't do that, but what can we do? Like, we need to start working together with these people to figure out what we can do. Second is transparency and communication. I know a lot of residents of Sultan feel like they missed the gap or they're not included in information sharing. There's got to be a better way to do that where everyone can access the information by whatever means they can. And the third is economic growth. Sultan, we're going to experience this huge growth in the next year of 650 new homes. Where do I grocery shop at a competitive rate? Where can I go get my nails done? Where can I buy a pair of jeans? Where can I do what I need to do within the town of Sultan? And that shouldn't be an impossibility.
Thank you. Okay, Kenneth?
I agree on a lot of the points that Ms. Vaughn has said. One of the biggest things is, like everybody says that's up here, is transportation. And if we can come together as a council and as a city and stand strong, maybe we'll get our voice heard. Secondly, I feel that we need to move forward with trying to revitalize our downtown. We need to give them a reason to stop. We need to be able to bring in that money so we can have the tax money coming in for that. We're a bedroom community. And what we need to be is we need to be a bedroom community and also a retail community. The only way that we win is in numbers by people standing up together. So if everybody can help with the dream, we can move forward.
Okay, Marianne.
One of the things that we didn't talk about was our park system, and I'm excited that Snohomish County has acquired the properties on the south side of the Skykomish River to develop into a future park with possible camping sites. I think that's a wonderful opportunity for Sultan to grasp some new business opportunities as that develops, and it brings people to the area, not to stay overnight per se as the houses being built bring more people here, but to come and use our stores and our gas stations and our food establishments and then go home. Thanks.
Okay, Stephanie.
All right, so when my husband and I moved here, we both felt like Sultan would be a great place to put some roots down. One of my visions was to keep the city of Sultan, as we're growing, still a tight-knit community feel, because I really like feeling that. Some of these ways I believe we can do this would be enhancing the infrastructure at with the city, and also enhancing the parks and open spaces that we have. And then also I want to be able to make your priorities, the City of Sultan, the people of City of Sultan's priorities, feel like they're heard and that they're important to us. Thank you.
Okay. Well, join me in thanking these candidates and everybody for this evening. And I want to thank all of you for coming. You were a very patient audience for a lot of transitions and a lot of things happening. Thank you. Remind you, when is Election Day? November 5th, and the ballots will be mailed October 17th, so you can start looking for those. And now you have a new drop box, right? So thank you for inviting us to join you. We always enjoy being out here.
Hello? Hello? Hear me?
Here.
Hello? Am I on? Am I? Okay. Quick reminder that tonight's forum was posted on Turk Pride TV. Please help support our student-run broadcast program by subscribing to Turk Pride TV on YouTube. Thank you.
Actually, this is a huge treat. This is the only place that the high school students do this for us. And a lot of places it's not broadcast anywhere. So this is a fabulous thing that you guys have in your community.